Hi, I'm Amber from Funk Around and Find Out Designs. When designing an installation that takes place in space, color scheme is a bit of a challenge. How do you introduce light in the darkness? We decided to create a faux stained glass, which we are calling Plexi Mosaic. My inspiration for the design I created for our Plexi Mosaic is crop circles. Now, I went down some rabbit holes learning about crop circles, and I found some great images online organized by year that these crop circles appeared. I don't want to get in a debate about what they are for, who did them. I love them. They are magnificent. And so I ended up being inspired by North American crop circles, and I created kind of an amalgamation of some of the elements of crop circles that had appeared in North America to create our pattern. This Plexi Mosaic is going to be installed in a bathroom door to let natural light come into the dark space of the bathroom. So I needed to find, because I like to recycle, a window to attach my Plexi to. Went to a junk shop, found the perfect dimensions, $5. Excellent score. And after I had created the design within the dimensions of the recycled window I'm going to use, I contacted my local print shop to have them print it out big for me. And this is a tip that I learned. If they print it as a blueprint rather than a poster, you save a lot of money on those printing fees. So my original inspiration for my color layout was going to be as if overlapping shapes, if they were different colors, would create a third color in between. Now, I did not strictly adhere to real world color theory here, but it's what I jumped off from. So I got my big printed out picture and I just started writing what color goes where. I lined it up with my different samples of plexiglass I had, got my strategy all planned out before I was even going to start. For this project, since it is supposed to be futuristic, like it is in a spaceship, I do not want it to look crafty or traditional or historic or antique in any kind of way. I want it to look futuristic. So I'm not leaving grout lines. I'm not leaving lines for leading. I want my seams to be as tight as possible. And under my plexiglass, I'm laying a clear iridescent tape that has patterns of circuitry on it to just really enhance that futuristic sci-fi vibe. Fun twist, the color plexiglass sheets that I had were smaller than the total surface area I needed to cover with any particular color. So I ended up making sort of like a striated fields of blue or fields of greens by mixing the colors. It was not in the original plan, but it was a happy accident. Originally, I would lay down my colors of plexiglass on my pattern, use a Sharpie, then go into the saw. But I ended up later just skipping a step. I used sort of an etching tool to go in and scrape it. That way I don't have to clean off the Sharpie later. It was just a little cheat code to shave a couple of seconds off here and there. Several years ago, I acquired a Dremel Saw that clamps onto the edge of a table, and I haven't had the chance to use it very often, but whenever I do, it is a pleasure. And this tool was perfect for cutting the plexiglass. The teeth on the saw blade are really fine, so I got nice cuts. I had very few casualties where pieces of plexi snapped or did something unseemly. One of the interesting things was the heat from the friction of the saw almost welded the plexi back together, like it would make a cut, and then it was also kind of like sealing back together at the end. So I just used, pliers to carefully snap it apart while it was still kind of warm and had a little bit of flex to it. This was just a learning process. I had no idea that it was going to happen that way. Once all my zillions of pieces were cut and fit as tightly as possible, and I was satisfied that it was as good as it was going to get, then I was ready to actually adhere them to the glass window. So I consulted with a couple of artist friends who do glass mosaic and who do stained glass to see what kind of adhesive they thought would be best with Plexi. And they recommended a clear siliconized caulk. Now, I hate silicone, but this is water-based. They assured me it was not going to be a nightmare, and it was pretty good. I was pretty satisfied. So my first step in the process was I applied clear contact paper over my assembled design to hold everything in place, flipped it out of there. Then one piece at a time, I just buttered the little pieces of plexiglass with the clear siliconized caulk and then placed it back where it goes. It had, some leeway with the time that it was still workable and I could shift and get everything placed in there. Now, it did take longer than expected for the caulk to turn clear. It was foggy white, which gave me nightmares because that is not what I wanted. And in the end, eventually, it turned clear. It created some beautiful kind of like bubbly patterns under there, which also boosted the illusion that this was a higher quality material like stained glass rather than cheapo flat plexi. Um, Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. And then it was time to seal that puppy. Now, plexi is kind of a finicky. You just look at it wrong and it will get all scraped up and scratched up. So I was as careful as possible, but I knew just in it existing in the world with humans, it was going to get beat up eventually. Somebody was going to be helpful and be washing the window with something a little too scrubby and it up. So I needed to seal it to protect it and then also fill the little spaces that weren't perfectly fit together because, I'm a human, not a machine. So we landed on 2-part epoxy resin as our solution. We were just going to clear coat the whole thing. So that's what we did. We followed the manufacturer's instructions, equal parts A and B, get it all whipped up and bubbly, stir, 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 stir. Then you pour it all over your surface, shake the surface, blow on it whenever there are bubbles, get out my torch, which I love my torch, and like gently heat to pull the air to the surface, burst the bubbles, and then I just kept checking on it and like leveling it, making sure it was on a flat surface so I wasn't getting thick on this end and thin on this end. Just have a nice, gorgeous, uniform, clear finish. And I could not be more happy. This Plexi Mosaic is a success.